fans in the United Kingdom. The National Football League does not often receive the attention it deserves. Once a year, diehards are treated to, at most, a quarter-page report stating no more than the participants and final scoreline of the Super Bowl. Despite the pathetic level of coverage, I look forward to these snippets, as I'm sure many other fans do, as a kid would do Christmas. Fortunately, though, things are beginning to change. For the last 5 seasons, the NFL has staged one regular season game in Wembley, with the hope of expanding the international fan base and potentially moving a franchise to these shores. The international series can really be regarded, in my opinion, as Commissioner Roger Goodell's jewel in his crown. So far, it is the most defining aspect of his tenure in charge of the National Football League. With the news that the St. Louis Rams have agreed to be the designated home team at Wembley for the next 3 seasons, it looks set to continue, and the Blighty Bowl may in fact sire what was a few seasons ago an unimaginable thing, a London-based franchise. Now, Britain has dabbled in professional football before. The London Monarchs were champion of the World League of American Football after its inaugural season in 1991. Before the league was rebranded as NFL Europa in '98 and NFL Europe in '98, and NFL Europa in its final season of play in 2007, dropping the non-European teams like Sacramento Surge and the Orlando Thunder, who contested the second World Bowl. The franchise was eventually replaced in 1999 by the Berlin Thunder, which meant that the Scottish Claymores became Britain's only domestic professional football team until they too folded in 2004, and since then we've had nobody representing us in professional ranks. The late 80s and the early 90s, during the heyday of Joe Montana, the glory days of San Francisco 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys, were brought to the British public by Channel 4, who broadcast the NFL games every week. With that kind of coverage, people were able to keep in touch with their favourite teams, but when Channel 4 dropped the National Football League coverage, the interest in this country waned. Although these days things are different. With the advent of the internet and ever more affordable satellite channels, we can now choose whether or not we want to keep up with the activities of the NFL, and so it makes sense for Goodell to expand now, because we can keep our fingers on the pulse all around the globe. The logical expansion might be to Canada, a country already has an infrastructure in place and a cultural similarity to the US, and knows the rules for starters. But the CFL is of such a standard that they would avoid the NFL like the SPL does the Premier League, like the plague. But this whole discussion is not about competition, it's barely about the football. I don't think anyone would expect the London Monarchs, or whatever nickname they would be given should they ever play a game in the NFL, to go and win the Lombardi Trophy in their first season, or in fact ever, or whether anyone would really want them to. This is about money, and so it has to make good business sense. And does it make good business sense? Personally, I don't think so. I think it's a risky move, a massive commitment for the league to make. The whole idea is riddled with logistical problems such as long-haul flights, massive time difference, making television scheduling a real nightmare, a poor infrastructure, and a weak grassroots system of this side of the Atlantic. And there also, I think, will be an outcry from purists who would view any kind of who would consider any kind of London team a bastardisation of a sport and an institution that the Americans are incredibly proud of, and I believe would like to keep as American as possible. In my opinion, the commissioners should increase the amount of games played, the amount of meaningful games played at Wembley over the season to maybe 3 or 4. Hopefully all games will sell out, as they have been doing, and that should be enough to keep interest high and to generate enough revenue for the NFL to make it worthwhile for the international series to continue. There is one thing we might be able to look forward to, though: a Super Bowl perhaps being staged in London, and that is a real possibility and something I think all fans would be very excited about if it were to happen. Well, that's all for me. I will be back soon. Thank you.